Welcome back to the Mike Brunick Show. This week, we're continuing our three-part series on health and wellness as an entrepreneur. In this final episode of the series, Mike is walking us through a couple of his own health habits and wellness Q&A. After this series, we're shifting into a new format where Mike will be interviewing guests from all fields of work, bringing in fresh perspectives and real-world insights from across industries. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, my email is in the show notes, and I would love to hear from you. All right, so I think it's time for a lightning round, and this episode's lightning round is, healthy, I think. So I want to start with your least favorite exercise in the gym.
I mentioned that I used to be a bit of a distance runner. You know, I'm I'm not the runner I once was, and I would much rather get on a rowing machine or an exercise bike or a ski erg than to lace them up and go pound the pavement like I used to. So I'm sorry to say that distance running is now one of my least favorite activities.
No hard feelings, that's okay. All right, this one doesn't require an explanation, and you can plead the fifth if you want to, but I want one word that comes to mind when you think of GLP-1s.
The word that comes to my mind probably isn't fair is caution. I have friends that have had incredible life and body transformations on GLP-1s, and I am incredibly happy for them. And I know that somebody who is drastically overweight, who's now controlled their weight, is done incredibly great things for their body. Just because they're relatively new, some of the early indications is that you're also losing muscle and therefore then having a hard time with some of the, not just exercise, but some of the important things that muscle and muscle cells do for us, including continuing to burn fat. There are some early indications that it can have a negative impact on bone density. Of course, there's lots of medications that have a negative impact on bone density. So I worry a little bit about people who stay on them too long just because we don't know everything that we know what they can do in the short term, and they do amazing things in the short term, but I worry about what they might do in the long term for people that become too reliant on them.
That is a really fair answer. All right, I want to know what your cheat dessert is. So I need like the guiltiest pleasure and somebody else is buying, and there's nothing between you and that dessert.
Well, a cheat dessert is a completely different thing than what do I do on, almost every night of the week when I want something sweet and I have to resist the urge or try for something healthy. A cheat dessert is a whole different question.
Yeah, I know. You could eat a whole cheesecake if you want. Like,
Yeah.
it's right in front of you.
So one of my favorite cheat desserts would be to head down to the north end of Boston into the Italian neighborhood, go to Mike's Pastries, not named after me, but it might be, as much money as I've given them over the years, and get some cannolis.
I love cannolis. So good. All right. I need to know, there's a lot of crunchy and healthy trends out right now. Have you seen any that you're like, that is totally outlandish and ridiculous and nobody needs to listen to that?
Yeah, a lot of them, right? There's I always get a little worried when people treat their body like a science experiment. I wonder what would happen if I only drank carrot juice for a month, or I wonder what would happen if I ate nothing but protein, or a caveman. I think of those as sort of risky science experiments, and so yeah, there are trends. I have a 20-year-old daughter who get some of her health advice from TikTok, and so I'll find things in the refrigerator, and I think, what are you eating? Yeah, there's a lot of health trends out there that are nonsense. But it's an important but. If a restrictive diet gets you the nutrients that you need and allows you to reduce your caloric intake and lose some weight, whether it's intermittent fasting or the Atkins diet or whatever it is that you find actually helps you while staying healthy and getting good nutrients, get you to reduce your caloric intake, and if you need to lose weight, to lose the weight that you're trying to lose, then it's a gimmick, but we'll take the results.
Very cool. All right, last one. I need your least favorite vegetable.
Ooh, wow, that's a good one. When I was a kid, I would have said Brussels sprouts, and my wife makes amazing Brussels sprouts. Roast some, a little bit of bacon, fantastic.
So good.
I also read that they have changed the taste of Brussels sprouts from when I was a kid. They used to taste differently, and they've genetically engineered them to taste better, which I'm going to still give my wife credit for preparing them better. I don't love asparagus.
Very interesting. I think there's a right way to do Brussels sprouts, but if you're gonna boil them for 45 minutes and then put them on a plate or a buffet or whatever, I don't want any part of that.
Can't get gushy. They got to be crunchy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I've got for this hour of the Mike Brunick Show. But I wanted to say thanks again for being here. It was so fun to talk through all things health. And I think we should do another episode on this sometime soon because I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
Okay.
All right. And cut. Hang on. Let me stop recording.